Today in this video we're going to be talking about franchising, sales and personal and business development.
So welcome to Profile 3 TV, and today we're joined by Sam Webb, who's in to talk to us about sales, franchising and transformation. So Sam, thank you very much for coming in.
Glad to be here, Karen. Thank you.
Excellent. You wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, your background? And
Yeah, sure. Started a long time ago.
I doubt that.
I left school just after my O levels because I wanted to start earning money. I wanted to get into business. Didn't know how to, so great disappointment to my parents that I didn't do my A levels. But I decided that I was going to do more than I could do with just coming out with my university degree or whatever, because I was seeing a lot of people not going very far after that, and I was getting a little bit, and I had this drive to do something more. I didn't know where to start, and I was working in bars and hotels to earn money, and I used to buy the Sunday Times every week. I was still a teenager. I used to buy it, not to read it from start to finish, but did glance at various bits in the business section especially. But what I was always intrigued by was the 3 or 4 pages of great jobs, but they were nearly always in London and places. And then one came up, was a sales job for British Olivetti in Belfast, and I applied and got the job, and that was my sales career launched. So for the next couple of years I did pretty well, and I learned a lot about selling. I also, I remember sending my cash off to the International Correspondence School to do a sales training course on my own, then a sales management course. Still around 18 or 19 at this time. So I learned a lot about sales. I thought that was maybe a good way to get into business. Still didn't know how, but started earning some money. I started learning a lot about how to interact with people, how to close sales, running around with my little calculator and typewriters. And just before I finished my career with Olivetti, we were selling this machine that was this size, and it did adding, subtracting, multiplying, and a bigger one had a percentage key as well. So we carried this thing around to demonstrate to people, and it cost £600 back then. So how things have changed.
Slightly changed.
But I learned a lot about how to deal with people and how to get your idea across and sell your product. So it was a great training ground. But in fact, there's several people that worked with me then in Olivetti that own business equipment business today. That's where they started, and they're still in the same trade, except they own their own business. I can think of three big businesses here where they all started selling with Olivetti. So I didn't stay in that business. Someone that left it and went into the insurance and financial services business gave me a call one day. He said, "Sam, I've got a great opportunity for you. I'm doing really good at this. You would do even better." He says, "You've got to come and have a look at this." I said, "What is it?" I don't know, I'll go anyway. So off I went, and I would say a week later I'd given him a notice to Olivetti, and I was launched into being a salesperson in the insurance business. That went exceptionally well. For a couple of years, got into management. I broke records in selling, and I really enjoyed the business, got a great background in that. So much so that I thought after a couple of years, I'm now 22, that I want to go into my own business here. This is my opportunity. I found a backer and started my own financial services business, learning as I was going along pretty much. In those days, that's what you did, especially in that business. There wasn't any regulation, legislation, or anything else. And I discovered I was very good at recruiting and training. I built up a very big sales force, and things were going really good. I was living a nice lifestyle. And I thought, what's next with this business? How can I take it further? And suddenly franchising came into my head. I don't know how, but
And franchising now today actually is a
Yeah.
great way to get into businesses.
I thought it was a way to get great leverage and build further, because I was sort of working just in Northern Ireland. How could I get into the UK? And this might be a way to do it. So I actually got started by joining up with a franchise consultancy firm, getting my contract together, prospectus together, and I sold my first franchise. That went exceptionally well. But at that time, I was approached by a gentleman from America who heard about what I was doing, and he had 400 to 500 franchises doing the same thing in the States. And I finished up, did a deal with him to take over Ireland and then eventually the UK. So I had 40 franchises built up and was doing exceptionally well, but there was a lot of money poured into it to get it to that stage. A lot of investors and personal investment, a lot tied up in it. And this thing called the Financial Services Act came along, and I spent like 2 years going back and forward to London trying to find out what way they were turning the industry. Eventually, it turned against me because they wouldn't accept franchising. We had marketing agreements with 7 or 8 companies. That was no longer allowed. We had an overriding payment paid that instead of taking a fee from the franchises, that's how we earned our money. And the whole thing crumbled. So as fast as I built this, it tumbled around me. I lost everything. So it was start over time, but now I felt that there's 2 ways to look at this. You can sit down and mope and, see what happens, maybe go into depression, whatever. Or, what can I learn from this? So I've learned an awful lot about franchising. I learned an awful lot about sales, about starting business, about entrepreneurship. I had gone over to the International Franchise Organization exhibition in Dallas as part of my finding out about franchising, and I came across a man that he actually passed away a few years ago. His name was Frank DeLuca, but at that time he had half a dozen franchises, and he really inspired me by saying, I said, you've 6 franchises and you're selling sandwiches. Where's this going to go? And he said, we're going to be bigger than McDonald's. That guy was Frank DeLuca, and he was the founder of Subway. And within a matter of years, he was twice the size of McDonald's outlets. I said, franchising really works, and it was really, this is something tremendous. I have a lot of franchise stories of guys I've met that have built big organizations, and maybe when we're talking about franchising later, I'll go into that. So anyway, I kept franchising in the back of my mind. I didn't do any more franchising for many years, but I used it when I got into consultancy and copywriting and sales training and all that. And very often businesses needed advice on how to expand, so I was able to impart that knowledge that I had through experience. And so that's what I did for a number of years. I then got very interested in not just developing business, but who's the person behind the business, the entrepreneur, the startup guy. What qualities does he need? How can I help there? And I got into what was then called personal self-development. I don't call it that so much today because I formed an organization called the National Forum for Balanced Success quite a while ago. And it was balanced success to me was not so much, looking at all aspects like the mental, the spiritual, the physical, and all the rest, and also looking at different aspects of your business and your life, your personal, your social, your family, your business, your financial, and all the rest. But the balance was about the you inside, who you really were, and what was going on outside, who you thought you were when you were being the person. So I got very much involved in the source energy, the mental development, who you really are when you're, no matter what's going on outside, what's going on in here. And that's when I developed the 10 principles of balanced success, and we did some business with that. And so it's a bit varied, but and that's probably a condensed version of my background. So
Wow.
here we are.
Amazing, absolutely incredible. So I have so much to know you about now, but actually the franchising sounds really interesting. Do you mind
Yeah.
if we delve a little bit more into that? So
Yeah.
Subway, is that an opportunity that got away, or were you tempted by some
No,
of this?
no, I wasn't at all. I mean, I wasn't interested in getting into a Subway franchise or into the food business at all. I went over to the franchise exhibition to talk to people like, I mean, it was a great honor to get speaking to Frank DeLuca in his early days. I mean, he had barely come out of college and couldn't find a good sandwich, the old story, and said, let's open our own. And you know, a very simple concept like selling Subways or sandwiches, there's not much in it.
Never
But
work.
you
Never
know,
work.
you know, now you just, you know, he's almost in every country in the world, and he everybody knows Subway. So you know, he used that to build his business. Another one that's was a good example. The Irish American guys, the Monaghan brothers. In 1969, I think it was, bought a pizza shop in America for $500. That was called Dominic's, and the story was that the whole thing turned into Domino's. But a great lesson from Domino's in the early years, they looked at what was happening with other pizza companies and how they could maybe steal a lead, find a gap, because you know Pizza Hut and these type of people were doing pretty well, and there's not a lot of difference in making one pizza and another pizza. So they built their USP, their unique selling proposition, on speed of delivery, and their motto for many years, the USP was. We'll deliver fresh, fast pizza in 30 minutes or it's free. And that got everybody's attention in America because that wasn't a great thing people were doing very well. You know, so they built it on delivery. You know, we'll deliver it in 30 minutes or it's free. And they kept that for years and years and years. And funny, a couple of nights ago I was switched on the television, and was it the National Television Awards were on. Didn't look at the whole thing, but I noticed the break came up, and it said sponsored by Domino's, and they had as their strapline, what was it? The ideal food, no, the perfect food for pre-speech nerves.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
And you know, so they capitalized on not only being the sponsor and getting their name up there, but they were appealing to so many people there. You know, it's like taking the guilt away. If you have something big on tomorrow and you're watching that, oh, it's okay to have a pizza. You know.
Genius. Genius. What a
So
company, yeah.
you know, they're still using good phrases to get their ideas across. You know, that's a bit tongue in cheek, that one, but I mean it's. You know, it gets a message across and gets you thinking. So it got me back to think of their original one about deliver in 30 minutes or it's free, you know.
Incredible to think that they're a pizza company, yet the USP was actually delivery, not the pizza itself.
Absolutely. I've been talking recently with another pizza company that's thinking of franchising, and we were trying to find what, you know, his USP might be. And it was very obvious. I mean, he cooks his pizza totally with very wholesome ingredients that you wouldn't see in any other pizza anywhere. So, you know, you can't really say that we're selling healthy pizza, but, you know, it might be something like the next best thing to healthy pizza. You know, his ingredients are incredible. And if he goes ahead, you know, it'll probably be built on that sort of theme. So in franchising, that's one of the things we've got to do is, how can we do something a little bit better? Or are we doing something better or something different? You've got to have a business that's already profitable, business that's already working, and you have, above all, to have something unique or a USP that will take you above the crowd, and it might be just a little thing like some of the things we talked about there, but you amplify that and it becomes the thing that makes you different and why people go to see you and why you'll get frequent and repeat business and all the rest. But franchising is it's a great way to get leverage if you want to expand. Not all businesses, I mean, focusing on your existing business might be the way for you to go very often, or maybe having a couple of branches, depending on the business. But if you want to go bigger, the capital that you would need to open 50 different places yourself is, extraordinary, the management and all the rest. But the great thing about a franchise is that the person that sets it up, it's his own business. So he's committed to the business in a way that a manager would maybe not be. And he's put up his own money. So, that makes that's a win-win for the franchisor and the franchisee, because the franchisee has now got a system that he can follow. The three main components for a franchise are, first of all, you've got to have your prospectus, something that you'll present to the guy that's looking at starting the business. And, that has to be appealing. It has to have everything about the business in it, why it's going to work and what you sell, what your product is, what your service is, whatever, who you are and why you've got to where you are at the moment and why it's going to work as a franchise. So, he's got to have enough information to make a thoughtful, informed decision about going and putting his money into this franchise. So the prospectus is very important. You usually would need an expert, a consultant, to help you write that. Mm-hmm. Second thing is your agreement, your franchise agreement, very important. The relationship between you and your franchisee, covering all the legal points. You need to have that looked at by a legal person, obviously, but there's, 20 or 30 points that a good consultant can go through with you and get it into shape very quickly. And the third thing is your manual, which, might be 3 or 4 manuals, it might be a training course, but generally it's called the franchise manual, and that's the how-to book. That's the whole secret. And you've got to make sure you've got as much stuff copyrighted and so that somebody just doesn't take this man and go off and do the same thing and all the rest. There's things there to look at as well. But they're the 3 main components you've got to do. And generally, a person couldn't do that on their own, certainly quickly or efficiently or properly or accurately. So it's an area where I can help with, depending on how much they want involved. I mean, I can take them through those 3 stages. The next stage is then selling the franchises, which I can also get involved in. The organisation I work with at the moment, the franchise consultancy group, the Infinity Business Growth Network, own one of the biggest franchise directories in the world. And if you're going to start your franchise and you want to go to the UK, you want to go to Europe, you want to go international, this is a great way to get your message out very quickly. So we can put the franchise package together for the person and get it onto vehicles like that at a very good cost. And then, we would work on either a training, get involved in the training, or a consultancy fee, or part of the franchise fee would go for recruiting the franchise or whatever. There's different ways of working it out from then on. Mm-hmm. But the important thing of franchise, or if you're going to go into franchising, your whole way of thinking, your role changes. You're no longer a small business owner of your enterprise. You're now selling franchises. So you've got to be able to transition into that role. And it's a very important question to ask yourself before you become a franchisor. Can I now be this more detached guy from my running day-to-day business, but now can I set up these other franchises, give them the backup, the training, can I recruit them and all the rest? So you're changing your role quite extensively when taking a
Incredible.
franchise out.
And what a way to grow a business.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So is it expensive then for a company that they have to basically prepare the docs? They have to be lined up and
Yeah.
think about the business,
Yeah.
and prepare the docs,
Yeah.
and then they have to actually then recruit.
Yeah.
They have to find the right people.
Yeah.
Is it maybe it's more effective or cost effective to do this than maybe open another location?
Yeah, very often it is. I mean, remember, if you're opening up another location, it's all your money going into setting it up. You know, I was talking to a restaurant owner recently that had spent £250,000 to open up a new restaurant. You know, if you've got 5 people that can do that with their own money, and you've got a system, or can supply them with the product or whatever, you know, it obviously has a lot of efficiency and leverage in it. Yeah.
And is there common misconceptions then around franchising? Because I hear franchising a lot, and I have some models, but you're actually right. You mentioned some amazing businesses that are global successes. So it without a doubt it works incredibly well.
Yeah. I mean, franchising does work. You know, in 5 years' time, 80% of franchises are still in business. In entrepreneur startup business, in 5 years' time, 80% of them aren't in business. Franchising works. So it's not a absolutely guaranteed way ever. Franchises fail, and it's usually either they started before they were ready to franchise. You do need some capital. Sometimes they're undercapitalized. You know, it's not just a walk in from, I've got a successful business now, I'm going to be a franchisor, I'm going to open up 100 of these. It can look easy when you look at people like Subway, but you know, it's so systemized. I mean, they call it the cookie cutter system over there, you know, where everything that you have learned in your business has got to go into this manual, and it's got to be transferable. So your business has got to be something that is easily duplicated with a good system. And the franchisees that you bring in is very important as well, the recruitment. I mean, not everybody can be a franchisee. I mean, essentially this guy's got to be an entrepreneur himself. He's got to be a person who can run a business and do all the things that a business person does. All he's got that's different is that he's got a system behind him, and perhaps a brand name. But you know, if it's a new franchise, not even a brand name sometimes at that stage, you know. But a brand can be built up very quickly with franchising, because you can have your 20 or 30 outlets in a matter of a couple of years, where it might take you a lifetime to do that in any other way.
Incredible. And when you've packaged up your business and you're bringing it to the market, so someone would maybe pay you a lump fee and then a royalty. Is that is it every business is different? Is that how it works?
Franchises normally there's a franchise fee, and the franchisor would be taking that to cover his costs on recruitment and training, and you know, getting it up to that stage where he can talk to the person and spend his time getting them launched in the franchise. The franchisor, the franchisee pays that because he's buying into a ready-made successful system, so he's prepared to do that. Then he pays a royalty generally, or some franchises he may be buying the products from them, and the franchisor is making a markup on that. But usually it's a franchise fee, and it might be an advertising fee as well. So, you know, he may be paying 3 to 9%, but and you know, the franchisor then is only making that amount on every franchise. But because you can build very quickly, getting, you know, if you're getting 9% out of, or 5% or 6% out of every business you've set up, that you haven't had to put the money in to start it up, it can start to add up very nicely.
Excellent,
you know.
excellent. And is it, for anyone that's maybe interested in looking at franchises, is it easy to just hit the internet and type in franchise? It's not, or maybe it's not that straightforward.
If you're looking to buy a franchise or start franchising,
to buy one, because I'm thinking that myself now, the economy's changing. People are interested in doing things themselves. Maybe job for life.
Yeah.
Sadly, are disappearing, if there is any such thing anymore?
There are 2 or 3 big franchise directories that you would find pretty easily if you start inquiring and looking for a franchise, or to talk to somebody myself. I can direct you to organisations that act for the main franchises in the UK, for example. Incredible. Or international, if you want to go that way.
Maybe there'd be some really exciting ones, and there'd be some that'd be okay, and then maybe some that maybe you need to ask
you know, one of them will strike your hot button. There, you know, you don't want to go into something that you've absolutely no interest in, you know. Yeah. But there are different types of franchising today. I mean, there's business services franchises, there's carpet cleaning, you know, there's coaching franchises, there's the food franchise that everybody knows about, you know, so there's quite a variety.
Incredible. So you recommend franchising for sure?
Yeah, I think if a business that is successful, it certainly should be an option you could consider as a way of expansion. It doesn't suit all businesses, but it's certainly an option to get a little leverage and growth very quickly.
Incredible, excellent.
Yeah,
really good to know.
And for an entrepreneur, again, lots of people will want to do their own thing. The risk is going to be much higher. The risk is much lower with franchising. So if you buy a good franchise that's been set up properly, you have a much higher rate of success there.
Yeah, and that's incredible. I didn't know those statistics, so that's incredible. So really interesting to see. So obviously sales is a big part of your career as well. So you think selling is as important today as it was?
Selling is absolutely as important today as it was. What I find in sales today, generally an entrepreneur starting up doesn't have a sales strategy. And a lot of that has got to do with the changes in online selling and buying. You know, people very often come to you if you're getting yourself out there, and you don't have to do so much selling because the interest is already there before you start. But to some extent that's changing, and to some extent you have to embrace that, and it's not easy just to do that anyway. You know, you just don't open up your business and expect people to come to you. It doesn't happen. So selling and salesmanship is something that is fundamental to all businesses. But you've got to learn the foundations of selling, no matter whether you're doing all your stuff online, whether you're doing it face to face, whether you're doing it by mailing, by emailing, or whatever. Selling, I have written some stuff on what I call the psychology of the buying process, because it's to me more important now to understand what the buyer is going through, and very quickly I put it into like 4 stages. They all run into each other. But when you meet up with a prospect for the first time, that person is summing you up and weighing, are you a salesperson? What are you going to sell me? But what he's also thinking is, what's in this for me if he's got something? And if you were the salesperson and you're thinking, what's in it for me? It's going to come across, you're not there to earn a certain amount of money or to get another sale. You're there initially to make a bond with this person, find out if he does have a genuine need and how your product might solve that need. So it's about how can I help, how can I serve, and that's the attitude you've got to have right away. So the first part of the selling is what I call the identification part, and the reaction you want from your prospect at that time is he's okay, he's just like me, he's a friend, I like this guy. So you've got to spend a lot of time on that. That's where you're developing the trust. That's where you're getting the likability factor coming in. Person won't buy from someone that they don't trust. They might buy sometimes from somebody that they don't like, but it's better to get both those things, you know. So your body language and you're smiling to the person and you're asking about his problems so that you can come up with a solution that your product might fit. So it's a genuine interest. So the identification stage is very, very important, building up that rapport, that bond. Before, I mean, a salesperson generally thinks they might come in and have to sell the product. Here's all the benefits of my product. Person's not ready for that, you know. So you get that bond going. And the second part would be where the prospect sees he's got a problem, you know, or a weakness, or compared to his competitor, he's not doing the things he needs to be doing to get to where he wants to be. So you're drawing that out through the questions. You're finding what his problem is. So the reaction you want, again, because we're talking about the psychology of the buyer, the reaction that you want to have there is, I'm in trouble. You know, I can see a weakness here in my situation, right? So he's to feel that, or at least see that. So experience it in some way. Then you move on to the next part, and that's when you can do your presentation. But again, you've got to be thinking of what your prospect is thinking, and it should be, that makes sense. He's got to be saying, yeah, that makes sense. You've got to let him see that what you're showing makes sense in his eyes. Yes. Okay? So that's when you're presenting your benefits, and you're presenting them in a light that is applicable to his particular situation, so that he can say, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense. And the last part, which normally in selling used to be called the close, if you think too much about how I'm going to close this sale, you're bringing up the wrong impression in the prospect's mind. What you want there is the client to flow gracefully into thinking, that's what I'll do. You know, he said, right, I like this guy, that's the first part. He's okay, he's not necessarily in here to sell me something, we've got a good relationship. Secondly, I've got a problem here. That makes sense, that's what I should do. And it's easy then to close it by saying, how does that seem to you? Is that like something that you want to go ahead with? What do you think? And the client says, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Sales done,
okay.
And some of that you can't do on the internet.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And we see a change, as you say, as the internet gets more competition.
It's interesting. You say that some that you can't do on the internet. Well, I think even people that do sell online need to know that, is because you might be building up that bond in a different way on the internet. You might be presenting and eliciting those reactions that you want in a slightly different way, but you're essentially, when you think about it, doing the same thing. You know, the client will go through those stages mentally, okay, before he buys. Okay, totally. So an interesting book a number of years ago I read by the futurist John Nesbitt. It was called Megatrends. And one of his megatrends was, he called it high-tech soft touch. And I can see this happening now. What he was saying was that we'll get into the internet in a big way, we'll start selling online, we'll get very sophisticated, and it'll all be that. But people will want to go back to the soft touch, where face-to-face selling is very important. And a lot of times they like to meet you and do business that way. That might be in a seminar group, this might be in a one-to-one, it might be even speaking to them on the phone rather than doing everything online, you know, but the soft touch is very important. People are human, yes. You know.
Very good. That's what we see how it's changed, and I agree with everything you're saying. So we can see, as it becomes more competitive online, back to, I guess now, we were in the past a lot of copy. And you try and deal with in the copywriting. Now we are focused on video.
Okay.
So you're actually presenting the visual story, so you want to see who's behind the business.
Exactly.
And then I can imagine where AR and VR will fit in around that as well. But it's very interesting. Back to, you look at the challenges that the retail, the high street's having. But and there's a debate, and I throw my 2 pence in often. Is the retail high street, is it doomed?
Yeah.
Or is there a place for it? And I agree with you. That people will still want.
Yeah.
And there's an experience there. Will always be there.
It's obviously going to change.
It's going to change.
But everything's always been changing. It's definitely changing. I mean, there's probably too much on the high street now for the way the mindset of people are changing, and so it'll change and adapt to some way. But people still like the face to face.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
Incredible, and the technology will have to fit in around that. And
sure.
I think companies that adapt to the technology are going to benefit more than
adapting to change is what's going to be more important than ever. Yeah.
Yes. You give us a stat earlier on that obviously most businesses start or that start in 5 years sadly aren't there. So you think that skills like sales are missed in entrepreneurs, and is that something that entrepreneurs can learn? Because again, so I'm an operator. I enjoy shipping things, building things, creating things. I hate sales.
Yeah. Yeah,
But what do you
basically,
do?
you know, if it's not a natural thing that you want to do, I mean, I say play to your strengths. So do what you're good at, and you'll get more growth and leverage there all the time. It may be that you need somebody else in your organisation to take care of sales, but it never does any harm having a good basic knowledge of how selling and buying works, especially what I just talked about there, the psychology of that, which is a 2-day training course, which I talked about in 10 minutes, but it's very important stuff. And even those that aren't in sales and don't like sales will benefit from it because in some ways you're always selling.
Excellent. That's the sales strategy you're referring to.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So yeah, so everyone needs a sales strategy. I suppose
Yeah.
it's fundamental point one. And you've written a lot of content in your time, and you've a 10-point plan as well.
Yeah, I wrote a book about 12 years ago called Life It's a Piece of Cake.
An amazing name, by the way, for a book. I have to say, when I read that, I was very impressed at the title as well. Yeah.
There was a bit of an analogy in it about the cake, actually, the ingredients going into the cake. You know, you eat this lovely piece of cake, but, you know, what are the components? And so I was relating some of the contents and how they were blended together in the same way that your life unfolds. Everybody's life's different, but your ingredients make you unique, and how you blend those creates the experience you want to have in your life. So, you know, it's about finding what you're good at and amplifying those, but at the same time deciding what to do with your weaknesses. Do you put them aside altogether? Do you have somebody else looking after that? Because the business, you know, needs every aspect of it nurtured. So, you know, you may be dealing with other people, or you may have to compensate for those weaknesses that you have, or you may develop some of those skills. Sometimes it's not even worth putting a lot of time and effort and energy into developing something that you've no interest in at all in a particular skill. But there are basic internal ones, and that's what I try to get across in Life It's a Piece of Cake. They're more personal type things that normally you're not going to learn at business school. I mean, I when I was 50, started studying with the Open University and did a management diploma. Then I did an MBA. I learned creativity, innovation and change, marketing and complexity, and knowledge management. And they're not always things that you learn in business, especially creativity, innovation and change, how to handle those, you know. What I like doing is, you know, let's say you want to be more creative. Find somebody that you consider to be a creative person. And it may be somebody that's not here, somebody that's written books, somebody that is here, somebody that you know, or it might be somebody like Walt Disney. So, you know, you look at Walt Disney, you say, you know, creative genius. So how did he do what he did? And, you know, I looked into the Disney operation, and they were the people that invented the word Imagineering. And it was built on, I mean, Walt Disney, they said he had 3 sort of personality modes when he was looking at a project. He was the dreamer, he was the realist, and he was the critic. Or they actually called him in the organization, instead of the critic, the spoiler. You know, he went from dreaming all the imagination and everything we could do to being realistic about it to actually spoiling it. And to this day, as far as I know, certainly recently, the Disney operation puts people into, they have a room for the dreamers, they have a room for the realists, and they have a room for the critics when they have a new project or something they're looking at. And they will discuss from those mind frames the topic. And then they get out and they have the neutral guy that sits and listens to everything before they come out with their plan to move forward, you know. So that's a great way to be creative. That's just one of the ways that, you know, we would talk about. some of the courses.
Incredible, excellent. So a lot to learn. I'm thinking that these topics I wouldn't even be, not like even on my radar. So
Yeah,
definitely,
they're important topics, but usually neglected ones.
yeah,
You know.
I think so.
Um,
I again, I'm thinking of my own business. So back to what you're saying, I focus on my comfort zone, which
Yeah.
would be operations,
Yeah.
and I find it very hard then to go into
Yeah.
other modes and
Yeah.
other departments. It's not easy. It's not easy to
No.
switch, and you have to. I find I have to fight with myself to do it, and then I find myself I'll switch back to operations
Right.
at
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
and then I have to go again. So it's not
Yeah.
easy for business owners.
No. No, it's not. I mean, being adaptable and being open to change, being open, you know, to different things that are going to happen in the business is important. But then deciding how far you can get involved because of your particular way of looking at things, your skills, your knowledge, your background. You know, it may not be that you're the creative one in the organization. It may not be you're the salesperson in the organization. But you do need to know a little about everything and a lot about something.
I know you've helped a lot of businesses, and that's part of what you do. So, do you think actually businesses benefit from having a specialist come in and review what's happening and
Yeah.
spot things that maybe aren't obvious?
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, very often, especially the startup entrepreneur guy. I mean, he has so much on his plate. He's doing everything, and that can go on for quite a while and can affect him health-wise, family-wise, all sorts of ways, negatively, if he doesn't either step back and look at what's going on himself or have somebody help do that. And I would say that's the biggest thing, is to be able to step back from what's going on every now and again and see where you are, and is this really achieving the goals that you originally set out when you were enthusiastic about building your business and everything, you know. The qualities like discipline and perseverance and those type of ones have to be tempered with creativity, vision, and things like even relaxation, stepping back, meditation perhaps, you know, that you would not get on your typical business course. Okay, but you know, your business should be an integral part of your life, or your life itself. You know, if you can mix the two, terrific. But if it starts to rule you and takes away from the other values that you have in your life, you know, is it really worth it?
Very true, very true. And actually, some of those things you're talking about there, you know, I'm thinking, reflecting with myself,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know, where is there balance there? And it's really not easy. I tell you, it's so I can understand someone coming in and giving a little bit of guidance, directing the ship at times.
I mean, it's said that you know, you sow a thought, you reap an action. You sow an action, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap your values. And then your destiny comes out of that somehow. But if you are forgetting about why you're in the business in the first place, what your values really are there other aspects of your life that are important to you? Is your time freedom important to you? You know, is your family important to you? Your health important to you? Okay, well, you know, don't become a slave to your business then. You know, I mean, life's more important than killing yourself in a business. So, you know, someone like myself or somebody coming in that can take an outside view and pull you back from it can then, you know, help you develop some of the other traits that you need to develop in life as well as in your business, you know.
Excellent, excellent. So what does 2019 look like for you? 2019, 2020? Yeah. No more franchise opportunities?
I never know specifically anymore, because my planning is more like flexible planning. I am very much into the idea of farming relationships with people and having umbrella type organizations where, rather than employing people in a business, Each of the experts is self-employed and running their own operation, but have been brought together in some way where there's ingredients that a business needs, and can tap into this. And so I'm talking to several people at the moment that have skills that I don't have. But I know businesses that need what they have, and if I was like at the top of the umbrella, just coordinating, but also putting my own skills in where required, but drawing on these other people, and then having financial arrangements with all these people, so that the customer can finish up with a really good, comprehensive, in-depth way of building their business and their personal development as well, from experts. So it's something I'm looking at. Also looking at perhaps putting a new course together on the principles that we developed 12 years ago, because research and stuff has changed over the years, and we're going to adapt those a little bit, maybe put a course together, maybe write another book, who knows.
Amazing. Sounds exciting. Brilliant. So again, thank you very much for
Pleasure.
sharing some knowledge today on franchising and sales and transformation. Incredible. So if anyone watching this wants to actually pick your brains, reach out and get some support or help on any of those topics, franchising or developing sales or growing the business, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, anybody can give me a call or email me. I'm glad to talk to them, and we'll take it from there.
And you're active on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Or go for LinkedIn, yeah, sure.
No hiding.
Absolutely.
There's no hiding.
No.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we put LinkedIn on the screen here, and
Good.
if you're watching the video, if you look underneath the video, we'll have a link and in the article as well. So please do click through and have a chat and get some guidance and advice. And I know Sam will only be too happy to help you.
Absolutely.
And especially around franchising, my word, what stories. We've only scratched the surface, I think, today. So thank you for watching today. If you do have any thoughts, questions or concerns or ideas around franchising, do reach out to Sam. He's available on LinkedIn, and do connect with him there. And hopefully you enjoyed today's video and you learned a lot like I have on sales, franchising and business development. And hopefully we'll see you in tomorrow's video. This is Kieran from Profile 3 coming to you from the Innovation Factory in Belfast. Talk to you soon. Thank you.